Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How you doing? How is everybody? It is Monday, October 30th, 2023. This is Fade to Black, and I'm your host, Jimmy Church. How is everybody? Here we are. It is Halloween Eve. That's right. It's Halloween Eve. I just got back. I was filming, wrapping another season of Into the Vortex, and I was in Denver, Boulder over the weekend, and got it done, wrapped it. It was all good. I'm sure that everybody saw the stuff on social media. Always a lot of fun and a great sense of accomplishment to get to the end of another season, and we did just that. And but here's the thing. So Friday night and Saturday night, the hotel that I stay at in downtown Boulder, I eat at the same restaurant, right? And the windows are out on the main boulevard there, and I'm sitting there with everybody, and I see rolling up the street what I thought was the Hells Angels, dressed as furry stuffed animals. And I see it rolling up, and it was hundreds. And rolling, I went, oh man, it's Halloween. And it was so cool to see all of the costumes and everybody rolling down the street. And then later the parties were breaking up, and including the hotel I was staying at. But it's just one of my favorite times of the year. And it's a great time to people watch and costume watch and all of that. And it just made me all the more excited to get back to LA and tonight's show. Our guest tonight is, now here's the deal. Okay. Tonight, and I try to do this every year. I want you to be in the same mood that I'm in, right? Tonight, we have Mark Leslie with us. And when we were laying out the artwork over the weekend for the show, and I'm looking at Mark's, he had the most perfect Halloween Eve. And that's a publicity photo for Mark. And I'm like, how perfect can this be? So it just set the mood for everything. And we're going to discuss all of his books tonight. Let's tell some ghostly stories, and we'll do all of that in haunted locations. And let's get into the Halloween spirit. Okay. Now, books like Spooky Sudbury, Haunted Hospitals, right? Tomes of Terror, all of that and much more tonight. You can go to his website, markleslie.ca. I think that's for Canada. And the links for that are below. You can go and check out everything that he does. And I'm going to get straight to it and say, welcome, Mark Leslie. Happy Halloween, man. How you doing?
Hey, happy Halloween, Jimmy. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. And before we get started, because I'm so looking forward to this, but you get the first time guest disclaimer. Yeah, so let's get that out of the way, Mark. It's just you and I sitting on my couch telling scary stories. And where those stories start, they start where they end, but we're going to end as friends. And there you go. That's it. But you have to accept. You have to accept. You have to click accept. Yes.
I've signed it with blood.
Well done. I want to start here. Canada can't be haunted. Everybody's too nice up there. But we'll circle back. We'll circle back to that.
All right.
Why is it that we like to get scared? And I like both versions, especially in the movie form. I like the intelligent scary, right? American Horror Story, something, where you got to think and get the bejesus scared out of you. But I like the cheap B movie jump scare stuff too as well. Why do we like that stuff so much?
Well, and Mike Flanagan as a director, when you think about like just a recent release like The Fall of the House of Usher, has both. Has those creepy atmospheric elements, those mysterious things, and then the jump scares. So it's a mixture of both. So I think there's a cathartic experience. And I was talking to another horror author earlier this evening who even talked about sometimes you want to see those movies and have those experiences in a theater so that you're jumping with everyone else and you're in that same zone. It's almost like, think about a roller coaster. Would not be as fun if people weren't screaming their heads off as they were going up and around and stuff. That actually adds to the experience. The other thing is that we all have fears, right? As humans, we're all filled with fears all the time. There's so much anxiety. There's so much terror and horror going on in real world. When we take it into the world of fiction, when we take it into sharing spooky stories, when we go to watch a horror film, whatever, type of genre of horror that is, we can control the fear. So you can close the book, you can pause the movie, and it stops. Right. So it's almost like this thing that we need where it's like, okay, really scary stuff happens, but it'll end. And so I think there's something very human about our desire to want to share those experiences.
Somebody just said in the chat, I know you're in the chat, they said Ghost in Canada apologized for scaring you.
That's right. They do. They apologize after they scare you, but they still scare you.
I love that. The other part of it is we want to look away sometimes, but we still don't. We'll still look with one eye, right?
Yeah. You've got that peek in between. You cover your eyes, but you still peek between your fingers because you're safe. Because like the magic sheets that protect you from the monsters at night in your bed, the hands will protect you if you can just peek through your fingers to watch what's going on.
Okay, I'm just going to share this. Everybody here has heard this story too many times, and so I apologize for that. But my house is haunted. All right, so we'll just leave that there. You're my guest tonight. We don't need to talk about, something will happen during the show now that we're talking about this.
Okay.
Anyway, so around the corner, you don't know the layout, but if you go out this door and down the hallway, and then you go left down another longer hallway, takes you to the north wing, right? And down that hallway, there's a bathroom on the left. It's a long hallway, but down the hallway to the left, and that bathroom has its door angled. So there's like an angle in the hallway instead of the door flat against the hallway, right? Okay. So there's like a thing, and you back around the corner and then into the door. And so when you do that, your back is now to this angled door that is right. But in front is this big giant mirror. So you get to watch yourself pee. But that's another story. Okay, but at the end of the hallway are double doors, that open up, and I have a music studio in there with drums and amps and guitars and stuff. And those double doors are open. The room is dark, and I walk down the hallway, and I turn the corner, and I turn on the bathroom light, and behind me, I can see in the mirror that is in front of me, behind me, I can see the double doors.
Right.
Through those double doors, I see a frigging ghost, and it walks across the room. Dude, I peed on the mirror. and I screamed. I did. I screamed.
Like a Ned Flanders kind of scream?
It was dude, it was like the real, it was when you're home alone,
right?
And you scream like there's nobody there. It was that kind of scream. And so, and I walk out, and I go into that room, Now, what am I doing? We've all seen that movie. You don't walk into the room.
No, what were you doing?
What was I
Is there a
And,
window in the washroom you could have jumped out of?
Yeah, right. It's like I wanted that adrenaline rush again.
Really?
What was I truly expecting? That I was going to walk in there and there's going to be a giant entity. Oh, get out.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I was asking for that. And you have to just say to yourself, why do we enjoy this? And I just don't get it. It must be the adrenaline fix. Once you get it, you need more.
It is so true, right? There's the endorphin rush that everything's happening, and it's a drug when you think about it. It's something that, yeah, you want to keep doing it to yourself. I mean, I'm terrified of heights, and I keep going on roller coasters. Like, what? Why? I'm scared of. I even go into haunted houses, and you walk through, and you know they're going to jump out and do stuff and stuff. I'm terrified, but why do I keep doing it? I guess it's like hot peppers, right? Yeah, we'll just try this next hot thing and see if it's going to burn my face like the last time.
And so you admit that you're scared, right?
I am the world's biggest chicken.
Yeah, and you don't look like you're chicken. I'm
a big chicken. Yeah,
you look like the guy I need walking next to me down a dark alley. I would feel
I
safe.
look scary.
You look scary.
No, honestly, my fiance Liz, when we were camping one time, and there's shadows outside the tent and stuff like that, I'm the one quivering, and she's the one going to investigate stuff because I'm too scared.
What?
Yeah, I may look scary, but oh my god, I'm just a big chicken at heart.
I need to go out there and check it out. But it's really, oh, that's funny. Now, as we get started tonight, what is more scarier to you? A haunted? No. Let me back up. Let me ask this right. What's more scarier to you? A hospital or a jail?
You know, there was a time. I'm not avoiding the question, but there was a time when they were one and the same. And oh, that's a tough one because the hospital is where we come in and out of the world, right? This is the crossroads. This is where trauma happens. This is where life comes into the world. This is where it often exits the world. But a jail is also trauma, but it's a different kind of trauma because you're trapped in that. So, oh my God. And of course, a lot of the research that I did about haunted hospitals, we couldn't avoid the fact that you would actually have hospitals, penitentiaries, like all the jails, these sometimes just lump, a lot of people who should have been in a mental hospital were locked up with hardened criminals and serial killers and stuff like that. But I don't know. They're both, that's a tough one. I'd have to say they're both really, really terrifying, but I think potentially the hospital may be a little bit scarier only because a jail is supposed to be negative, and a hospital in many ways is supposed to be a place you go to heal and stuff like that. And that deception of the twist can be a bit scarier when you don't expect it. That's why dolls are so creepy, right? They're supposed to be nice and pretty and cuddly.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I guess the correct answer is a prison hospital.
There you go. That's the most terrifying thing.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. But yeah, you're right about that. And I remember I'm a big gamer, right? I love gaming.
Yeah.
And I just turned 60 years old last week, by the way. And I'll admit it, I'm a gamer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a kid. I haven't grown up. One of the scariest video games of all time and movie franchise is Silent Hill. And
God, yeah, that game scared the crap out of me.
And the whole game is just creepy and eerie and all of that. But the hospital in Silent Hill, I had dreams about that, and it was so terrifying, and I could not stop playing the game. Couldn't.
Yeah, and there was something addictive about that. You couldn't help but want to, and that's the thing. We can't help but want to look into the dark corners. We can't help but want to, oh, the ghost went that way. I'm just gonna follow him. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go where it went. why do we do that to ourselves? It amazes me.
Is your house haunted?
God, I hope not.
Oh, really?
Not that I'm not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. Although, I mean, we have a couple cats too, so you get the weird stuff. I got the door closed because my partner's off to bed already. But the cat, the minute they see a closed door, they're scratching at the door and trying to push on it. So the door's like making this bumpy noise. And if I didn't realize it was the cat, I would wonder something's trying to get in.
Yeah, you bring up a good point before we get into the meat of the night tonight, which is to get scared, and I'm already scared.
Yep.
Animals see another dimension that we don't.
Yeah. One of our cats, Atticus, we always say is, oh, he's got the I see dead people look on his face, because he, more than anyone, he's just got that stunned look, and he's looking off and what the heck is going on? And and we just say, let's just ignore him. He's looking at dead people again. Let's not look there.
Why do you think that is?
Well,
And people can do the same thing. Not everybody can, but some people have that gift that animals do. When animals are you're in an empty room and your dog is following something around the room, or your cat, and you're looking, there's nothing there. They're looking at something.
That's the most terrifying thing when there's, or a baby is looking over your shoulder at something and here's the thing, right? We condition ourselves. I think we're born with their full brain capacity, and then we're trained not to use a lot of it. We're born open-minded, and we close our minds as we get older and stuff like that, which is why we're both kids, right? So, but when you think about, there are some people who can still see and still experience things beyond the limits that we set for ourselves. And I like to there's the sommelier, the person who is the wine connoisseur. I probably said the wrong word for that.
I think that's right.
Yeah, but there's some people, I taste wine and go, oh, that's really good. I love craft beer. I taste it and go, oh, that's a great hoppy IPA. And then there's someone like, oh, there's notes of this and all this other stuff. And I was like, I think it's the same thing with people who can experience things or see things that the rest of us just don't see, even though they may be there. So I wonder if there's something like that. And animals, of course, they're using more than just their vision. Their other senses are quite enhanced. And so I wonder if maybe they're smelling something and they're looking over there to see, what is it that I smell over there, right?
And the ability to turn around, if a cat could type, then they would do American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know what I mean? Because they see and experience that when Ryan Murphy, the creator of American Horror Story. I went to high school with Ryan.
Oh, wow.
I did. And to my eyes, to my memory, normal guy.
Yeah.
I'm serious, man. What was going on in his head? And I have no idea, but he has the ability to, so it makes me wonder, because the way that he writes and the way that his stuff is directed and put together, and there's a lot of creative people out there that know how to get this done. And you're one of them too, as well, where they must experience this at some point. I don't think that it's all just creativity, right? That there's a sense of reality here that we may be in denial of, but interdimensionality and ghost and entities and the connected universe are all real things. And this stuff is going on around us. Some of us experience it, some of us don't. And those that do manage to get the media out there, whether it's written or it's a film or a TV series, for us to experience. I'm not wrong, am I?
No, I don't think so. And I think there's something intriguing in that. I mentioned earlier that I'm a big chicken and I'm terrified. I still think when my son was little, I was scared he would come into my room and say, Dad, there's a boogeyman's in my room. And I wouldn't be able to tell him, well, the boogeyman's not real, because I'd be like, oh, come on, let's hide from the boogeyman. The covers will protect you. Right. So that was a real thing for me. And I think a lot of the horror I write, a lot of even the fiction that I tell is based on my own fears. maybe it's therapy. I don't know what it is, but I'm drawing upon the things I fear the most and pushing them out. And maybe it's kind of like, well, if I do this, maybe I'll be less scared. Or maybe it is. Or maybe at the very least, misery loves company and I can scare some other people so that we can all scream together. So
what do you do with your? See, you have a great opportunity, right? Dad, read me a bedtime story.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a book for you. And you pulled out Spooky Sudbury and you said, is he aware of what you write about?
Yeah, you know what? He's 19 now. So when he was younger, I mean, it's kind of funny. Halloween, big thing. Like we have a huge carnival display on our front lawn with 12 different skeletons and a Ferris wheel and like all this fun stuff. So Halloween's always been a really, really big thing. When he was little, even when he was just barely walking, he's like, Dad, here's another skull. And he's in there and setting up graveyards with me and stuff like that. And yet, he was scared when he saw the trailer for the movie WALL-E because, Wally's eyes are kind of spooky looking. I remember him freaking out when he saw Harry Potter and the washroom scene where the golems in the washroom or the trolls in the washroom. And so he wants to go see Five Nights with Freddy. Obviously, he wants to see that with me in the movie theater. But honestly, he has not read my horror. And they would have Halloween parties. He would have friends over and they would employ, the kids would all go, tell us a scary story. And I can scare the crap out of people. But what I would do with the kids is I would tell them a story that was kind of creepy, but it had a funny punchline ending. Because I didn't want them to go home. I want them to pee their pants and tell their parents, Mr. Leslie made us cry.
Right, right. My daughter, Nicole, she was about 3 years old, maybe 4. And middle of the day, right? This is not at night or anything like that. It's the middle of the day. And channel surfing, kind of goofing around in the living room. And the Johnny Depp movie came on, The Headless Horseman, right? Or whatever that movie is.
Yeah.
Right. And so she's watching it. She's sitting on the floor. And I'm sitting on the couch. Everything's normal, like grilled cheese sandwiches, right? It's just like a normal day.
Yeah.
And the scene pops up with Depp riding the horse down the trail towards the camera, and he's headless, right? And I'm not exaggerating, she bounced off the walls.
Yeah.
She was screaming and crying and shaking and running, and I couldn't calm her down. And the movie's still playing, and she's like looking, blah, 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 and she's 28 years old today. She cannot watch that movie. And she loves, she loves horror movies. But that one scene, man. And there was nothing I could do. Nothing. I tried to, man. There was nothing I could do.
That is amazing. Speaking of Legend of Sleepy Hollow, I had an album, vinyl album when I was young, and it was Boris Karloff read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And we would sit there, my friends, and we'd sit there in the dark and put it on the little record player. And just his voice and the music and the way they told the story it still gives me the creeps. And there was no visuals. It was just the story. It was just that. And that was a magical, terrifying time. So I can, like, as you're telling me this story, I obviously I know the scene, but oh my God, of course she was terrified. I was terrified. I was an adult when it came out.
And and you're right about that. The theater of the mind, is much more terrifying than what's on the screen.
Oh yeah.
Except for Ryan Murphy. Ryan Murphy is demented. He's got a way of doing it in a very
such a great series.
Yeah, such all of it, even his new stuff. But the theater of the mind, right? So you write the book, and now it's up to me as I'm reading your pages. I paint the picture.
Yeah.
So as terrifying as I want to make it, it happens up here. Much, much scarier than, I think that's the success of Stephen King, right?
A lot of it, yeah. Well, think about The Monkey's Paw. Think about that classic horror story. And they never open the door. They never see what's behind the door. What we imagine behind the door is far more terrifying. And oftentimes in a lot of horror, it's It's when you remember the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the old black and white movie. And this is what I think Mike Flanagan does really, really well, is that the moment where you just see something swim by and you don't see him. And that's far more terrifying than when the monster actually comes out of the water, because it's those glimpses from the corner of her eye. It's that you looked in the mirror and you saw the ghost, and then when you turned around, you didn't see anything, right? It's those moments that can be a lot more terrifying, because the stuff in our own imagination is far more powerful. And when you, as a writer, as a storyteller, can get into the watcher, the listener, the reader's imagination, they'll come up with something far more terrifying than you could ever possibly plant there.
I was joking at the front of the show, about Canada, and I love Canada. By the way, I love everything about Canada. And I
not just the poutine.
Yeah, hey, that was good. That was good. I joke all the time about Canada. You guys are still pissed about Wayne Gretzky, and you guys won't get over that. But
oh, come on, we've given you Ryan Reynolds, all kinds of people.
you have, but you also gave us Nickelback. So don't forget about
we had to send some horror your way.
So yeah, a true Canadian horror.
Yeah, look at this photograph.
You know what? You brought up a really good point. All right. I was going to ask you about this, the scariest place in Canada. So you think about that before, as I ask this next question. The best Canadian export. You ready? Now think about this now before you answer. Rush or Triumph?
Are you kidding me? That Rush.
Really?
Are you kidding me? I mean, Triumph's a great band, but I am a die-hard Rush fan through and through. So you asked the wrong guy if you were looking for Triumph.
That's a great answer. That's an honest answer. And I would say, yeah, of course, Rush. But man, Triumph. You know, they say lightning doesn't strike twice. But you guys, two pots of gold right there, man. And two things that are so close to my heart. Okay. So speaking so kindly of Canada, what's a scary place to you in Canada?
You know, I think one of the most haunted locations in Canada would be the old Carleton jail in Ottawa, the nation's capital. And it's one of the largest, oldest hospitals that actually, and this was a jail that they did actually put, hardened criminals in beside mental patients who should have been in an actual hospital being cared for, but it actually turned people darker. This is allegedly one of the most haunted buildings in the country. It is described as hell on earth. I found articles of people who, someone a pickpocket got put in there and was kind of slammed in there. And it was just this horrifying, traumatic experience. But one of the things that makes it one of the scariest places is it's a youth hostel. And it's been converted into a youth hostel. So it's relatively inexpensive to stay at. And you can stay in one of the old converted jail cells. You can actually stay in cells. You can have tours of death row and stuff like that. And there's so many different ghosts. There's the faceless woman on the 4th floor. There's a vampire ghost that allegedly just sucks the energy out of people when they stay too long. There's just so many stories. And the local Ghost Walk group, of course, has been doing tours of this place for at least the past 20 years. And every time I go to Ottawa, I always have to go on the ghost walks there. So haunted Carleton jail and right in downtown Ottawa.
That is the most haunted thing I've ever seen. I'm telling you right now.
You've been there?
No, I'm looking at a picture. No, I would never go in there. I wouldn't go in there with you.
well, that's the thing. And when I was researching, I'd gone on the Ghost Walk years earlier, and that's one of the things that inspired me to want to research and write ghost stories. But my partner Liz and I were there, and I was researching for Creepy Capital, and she's not a believer. I believe in everything, and she's like, "Yeah, I'd really like to see a ghost because I don't believe," but she's very intrigued and curious, right? So she's open-minded like that. So we're on the Ghost Walk. And I'm happy because we're in a big group, and I want to stay in the group because if something's going to pick us off, maybe I'll be the safe one, right? So I'm going to hide in the center of it. She's wanting to wander off and go by herself so she can maybe see something. And I'm terrified to wander away from the group. And then she goes, we could have stayed here in the haunted jail instead of at the hotel. And I'm like, no, you can stay at the hotel. I'll be in the Novotel across the street with all the lights on and my big mag light and flashlight. But yeah. And we did stay at the Chateau Laurier, which is right across from our Parliament buildings, which is allegedly haunted by the owner who actually died on the Titanic just before the grand opening. He was on his way back from London, and there's rumors that his ghost came back and continues to haunt the building because he missed the grand opening after all of that. And we did wander around till about 3 a.m, up and down the hallways at night, just hoping to see something. So while I was researching the book, and we just got tired.
At the Carlton, what makes it haunted? What are some of what's the backstory here?
Well, this is both men and women were imprisoned there. This was also where they did executions. So they did a lot of executions. The last public execution in Canada took place there. Even the gallows are there. You can see it on the tour, and it was open to the public because, again, it was always a public execution and stuff like that, and people would stand in the streets to watch that. One of the prisoners, Patrick Whalen, who until the very last second denied that he was the person there was a murder that took place with a politician on Spark Street in Ottawa, shot in the head, and he said he was framed. And he cursed the ground as he was about to be put to death. He cursed the ground. And he said, one of the things he said, interestingly enough, before they hung him, was no grass will ever grow on this lot. And this is the field that they were all standing in. And of course, it's been a parking lot for 100 years. So no grass has grown there, except maybe some weeds that poke through every once in a while.
It is just a frightening looking place. It's a perfect place for a youth hostel.
Oh, it's perfect. It really is it's a beautiful old building. They had a really great bar that unfortunately closed down during the pandemic, but it was a great bar that they had live music and craft beer, and it was just this perfect location right in the heart of it.
Have you seen a ghost?
I may have. So Liz and I were traveling. We were coming back from Florida. I was down there for a writers' conference, and this was just after we released Haunted Hospital. So we were driving. We live near Toronto, Ontario, and we were driving back from Florida. We stopped in Weston, West Virginia, and this was because we wanted to go see the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which my co-author Rhonda did all the research. Rhonda Parrish was my co-author for Haunted Hospitals. So I didn't like when she did all the research, she did all the deep research and then wrote a chapter, and I just kind of proofread it and stuff. So I knew it very lightly. I only knew the stuff I wrote about really well. So that this is perfect. We'll stay there. And so we're driving north, and we went all the way from Orlando, and we made it all the way to Weston, West Virginia. I think it was like midnight, 1 a.m, foggy, driving through the mountains. And we're going to stay at a hotel and then go on the tour of the building because they do haunted tours. And so Liz is driving. We pull into one hotel and it's just packed. And I run in and there's like, do you have any rooms? And they said, no, it's completely packed. Like nothing. There's nothing's available. So I go, there's another hotel just a couple miles up the road. So get back in the car and we go. And we get there and it's packed parking lot as well. And I go in and I said, do you have any rooms? And they said, yeah, we have one. This is kind of like from a good classic ghost story. We have one room left. And they said, but it's no king or queen size bed. It's two doubles. I said, I don't care. We're just going to sleep. So I run back out, let Liz know we got a room. We get into the room. And so like I said, I'm a chicken. On the way down, we had stayed in a very similar laid out room. And it was in a part of town in a city where I was more worried about the clientele. Like we actually slept on top of the sheets. We pulled the couch in front of the door because I was afraid people were going to come in. It took any valuables out of our car. Same layout room. And I'm a nervous Nilly to begin with. Liz takes the bed closest to the washroom. I have the bed closer to the door. Have my laptop bag and all the passports and everything because we're Canadian, on the table inside. She puts a hoodie on, puts overhead, rolls over. She's out, and she falls asleep like that. It always takes me an hour because I'm always like scared of the dark and stuff to fall asleep. So I finally fall asleep, and then I wake up because I hear someone walking, and I look and I see Liz at the end of the bed, at the end of her bed, walking towards the washroom. And I'm laying there and I'm waiting for her to turn on the light, go into the washroom light. And then the next thing I know, I hear her breathing in the bed beside me. And I sat up and said, oh my God, there's a woman in the room. I just saw a woman. And then I told myself, because I have to tell myself these things, Mark, you're panicking. So I looked, the latch was still on the door. Like no woman came into the room. Everything's fine. Here's what happened. I told myself, I was laying there. I saw Liz go to the washroom. And you know how sometimes when you wake up and then you kind of fall asleep again, but it could maybe 2 or 3 minutes pass, but you think a second had passed. That's what happened. I fell asleep. She went back to bed. And then the next thing I know, I thought I was just laying there and a second passed. No problem. Fine. I finally, after another hour, fall asleep because I'm laying there twitchy and hearing noises and stuff. And then I hear this sort of on the table at the end of the bed. And I say, oh my God, there's something going on. Someone's in the room. And I sit up and I was like, oh my God, my laptop bag, like they're going through my bag. Something's going on. And again, I check the door's locked, and then the other door, like there's the connecting door. That's fine. It's closed. And our bags were in front of it, with a little prop stool. And again, it took me forever to fall asleep. So then in the morning, I asked Liz, I said, oh man, did you get up at all last night and go to the washroom? And she goes, no, not at all. I never got out of bed once. And I went, oh, interesting story. So I tell her, and as I'm telling her the story, her face goes completely white. And I said, what? And she said, I thought it was a dream, but I was laying in bed, facing the wall, whatever, and I could feel someone standing over me. And then I felt a hand. She said, I knew it wasn't you. I felt a hand gently touch my shoulder, and it was a woman's hand that touched my shoulder. And so Liz, being feisty and spirited and strong, she steels herself up and she gets ready to take a swing at her, whereas I just would have peed myself, but she gets ready to fight and there's nothing there. There's nobody there. And so the two of us were convinced that she felt a ghost and I saw a ghost, but I couldn't find any. I did research and I tried to find, I couldn't find any other stories about this hotel in this room. So I think I might have seen a ghost.
Oh, you did. I love that. Okay. So how do you, I got a piece of hair sticking up.
Me too.
Well, hold on. It's like, okay. It's flat. How do you deal with it? The next day when you now realize that something did happen the night before.
Well, here's the interesting thing. In the night when everything was happening, it was frightening. I was terrified, as I always am. When Liz told me the story and we thought about it, we thought there was a woman in the room with us last night, but she herself wasn't scary. Maybe she just wanted to be with someone. Maybe she was reaching out and trying to connect with someone because maybe she's stuck here. We actually felt empathy. We felt for her. We felt even like it was an interesting thing because the two of us, and she's not a believer. When we left the room, we said goodbye to her and we wished her well.
She's a believer now then, apparently.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. But she, like, the thing is we can't explain why I saw what I saw and why she felt what she felt. And again, it's not like she saw something and I saw something. And you think about the senses, right? Maybe I was visually tuned in and she was, in a tactile sense, she was tuned into that. So that was just a weird experience. And I've never really had that sort of experience before where I've seen something or heard, like I saw and heard and she felt.
Today, just today, this happened today. By the way, it's now so frequent in my house that I just don't give a crap anymore. I used to I used to give a crap, right? Where I would like react and, and things.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm not tapping out to this, right? And so whatever's going on. Anyway, so I'm standing in the kitchen. I was literally making coffee. Everything's cool. And I hear from in back of me around towards the front door, like the echo like came from that way. I heard just like a right loud came from inside the house.
Okay.
Not sure, but I didn't go and check. I did not.
Because you're like, oh, it's just.
I looked up and I went, okay, what was that? But I kept going back. In a normal situation, you go and check. Is it somebody knocking at the front door? Yeah. No, it's really weird. I don't react anymore. I've accepted that the phenomena is real. There's something going on here, but I don't. It's too easy. It's like Jack Nicholson, right, in The Shining.
Yeah.
It's too easy to freak yourself out, right? And you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to. You don't want to. Go up to the edge of the cliff, take a peek, and then like jump. Right? You don't. You don't want to be that guy. And Jack took it too far. And when you're alone, you can do that, or you just resolve it in your own mind, and it's just like, okay, we have to live together. Okay, all right, and that's where I am with it.
Oh wow, that's and that takes some time too, right? You probably took a while to acclimatize to that, right?
Well, at first there were, it was so frequent at the beginning, like daily, and sometimes a couple times a day, and it was exciting. It was cool. I'm talking to something that I can't see it. Yeah. And there was that part of it. And that lasted pretty solid for about 6 months. Yeah. And it's still, it's little things like this. All right. I'll tell you a real horror story. This is like real. This is like freaky. Yeah. So in the back of the house, the dining room has got on the back half of the house a double 2-story. It's a tall dining room, right? So it's got 2 stories of glass in there.
Right.
It's got the lower and then the top. It's got this big arched round window on the second story. Right. Okay. All right. So I'm in the front part of the house. And I hear what sounds like a gunshot, or some loud kablam. It wasn't a gun, but it was just a loud impact. It was loud, and I was like, "What was that?" And so I'm walking through the house, thinking it sounded like it came from inside that, but it was like uncomfortably loud,
right? And
I'm walking out, I see nothing. I'm expecting to see something exploded or something, and there's nothing. So then I walk out into the backyard. I go through the sliding glass doors. I'm like, that was weird. And then I look, and on the back patio, on the bricks, is a giant black bird, bloody, with its neck broke.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's like this big, like a raven.
Oh wow.
Right? A big black, like a turkey. It was big, and it was still twitching a little bit. And I come up, there's a blood, and then I looked up, and that arched window that I'm talking about, there's a blood splatter on the window.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking, and I'm like, for all the light, now this kind of freaked me out. How does this, and why did this happen?
Yeah.
At my house, and it took me a minute to just visualize and like put it all together. This bird hit my house at full friggin' speed. How it didn't just burst through the window, and that would have been, taking things to a new level. But and here he is, and it was a scary moment for me, and it was black too, and that was the other part that, and And it's like, so what goes through my head at that moment? I'm thinking of The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Or how many times have you seen black ravens in a movie? Or how many times have you seen a black raven land and look at somebody and that's the moment that, right?
Yeah, that's the bad omen, right?
Yeah. And I went through all of that.
Wow.
I went through all of that.
Well, the blackbirds especially, and a dead bird, isn't that a harbinger of death or something like that? Isn't it? When
all of those thoughts went through my head. It was a very uncomfortable thing, and now I also have a dilemma on my hands. I've got a bird on my back patio. You don't leave it sit there, right?
Yeah.
I've got a blood splatter on my window, this big, with body parts stuck to it, right? I've got that, and I've got that to deal with. And I went in the house and sat down and contemplated the moment. What is this? Yeah. And you have to do that. You have to. Is this some weird omen? Yeah. Is it just nature? Is it just an accident? Do birds not see windows? Right? And they think they can just fly through it. I don't know. And just like you with that ghost, Mark, just like you, I've got to rationalize this into the clean zone.
Yeah.
Right. You don't rationalize this into the dark.
you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to go there.
And so for you, when you hear a story like that, what are some of the terrifying stories that motivate you to write?
So I think people love to share scary things that have happened to them. When I do, especially this time of year, I do a lot of appearances in radio programs and in-person library talks and bookstore talks. And almost always at the end, people hang around, they want to get books signed, whatever. And then oftentimes people will kind of lean in conspiratorially and say, well, I got to tell you something that happened to me. And there is, like I said, there's something really cathartic about just sharing, and that bonds two people. We're like, oh, that scary thing happened to me. Of course, then the next thing I want to do is I go, oh, wow, if you and I are both impacted by this thing that happened to you, my next natural question is that something I can share? Because I'm constantly keeping notes and journals and stuff. I don't know if is it going to be something I can expand upon in a book, a themed book that I'm going to be writing about true paranormal experiences or unexplainable situations and stuff like that? Or will this be something that I work into fiction? And more often than not, the fiction thing, it just stays in the back of my head and it gestates there, and it just stays in the old wine barrel, and it soaks in the old bourbon and all the flavors that are there, and it may come out in a story years later. Sometimes I'll get the it's like, oh, well, maybe we should just grab a coffee and you can tell me some more details, and I want to write it, because I think there's something really fun when somebody shares a story that somebody else says, I want to know more. And I even call this is the lean in moment, when someone's telling a story and you can see them visually lean in, they're interested, there's something about that's compelling. And I, as a natural born storyteller, want to be able to see how I can absorb those stories and then maybe pay it forward or help inform and entertain, inspire other people with it in some way, shape, or form.
So give me an example. What terrifies you? Tell a story. Yeah, tell a story. What's a terrifying story?
Well, I remember one of the ones that scared me was I was on, and you've done Coast to Coast AM, of course. I was doing a show, and I think Tomes of Terror, my Haunted Bookstores and Libraries book, had come out, and I was researching for haunted hospitals, because again, the book comes out, you've already written it a year earlier and stuff like that, you're already working on the next project. And we got a live call into the show, and it was a gentleman who was working, he had worked for the Pinoca Institute, which was an insane asylum in Alberta, Pinoca, Alberta. And this was an interesting situation where he had wanted to relay a story that he had never told anyone before about this woman who they believed was possessed, who was basically in the institution her entire life. The weird things would happen with her where she would complain that the room she was in was ice cold, freezing cold, and then she would they would move her. They'd go into the room, and it was like a meat locker, and they'd move her out of the room. Even like the radiator was working and stuff, but it was still cold. They move her into another room, and the minute they moved her into the other room became ice cold, and the room she was in went back to normal temperature. Sometimes it would take, she would just be freaking out, and it would take like 4 or 5 people to hold her down, and they would have to tranquilize and calm her down. Otherwise, she would hurt other people or herself. But this one evening, and they even talked about bringing a priest in and seeing if they could do something to exorcise her from what they believed was she was possessed. And it wasn't all the time. It would just come and go, where she would snap into this state. One night, overnight shift, he's working and he goes in to check, and he heard. So sometimes you would hear her having this conversation. You would hear 2 voices, and then walk into the room and there'd be no one there. So in the middle of the night, he's walking down the hall. He hears his voices coming from her room. He goes into the room. It's, dead quiet when he walks into the room, and she's sleeping, except she's sleeping standing horizontally on the wall, about 4 feet off the floor, just about 1.5 feet off the bed. Her feet are on the floor. She's facing out into the middle of the room. Her hair's hanging down. She is sleeping and standing like that. He didn't know what to do. He basically freaked out, wasn't sure what to do at that point, snuck back out of the room, closed the door, went back to the TV room, didn't tell the other people what he saw, didn't know how to process this. He shares it on public radio. Kind of freaked him out. I got a hold, I talked to the producer after the show, said, I'd love to be able to talk to that guest because I'm doing a book on haunted hospitals, blah, 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 blah. I end up about 2 weeks later talking to him, arrange a chance where we can have a phone call. He shares that somebody who also worked at the hospital, who was listening to the program because they had a weird experience but never told anyone, remembers that woman, who she was, and talks about, and this was months later, talks about doing the same thing where he walked into her room after hearing voices in a room, and he walked in and saw her sleep standing, except she was about 1 foot off the floor, standing vertically right in front of the, like facing towards the door. And he could see definitely that she was sleeping, but that was a weird thing. And that second person kind of clinched it, where he realized, okay, I wasn't the only one who saw something weird, because nobody wanted to say that they saw something. So I remember Liz was sleeping in the other room, and I'm in my apartment, and I'm in the living room with all the lights on. And I remember that story scaring me. I didn't hear the second one, but the first story scaring me so much because it was close to the end of the program. I think it was like 3 a.m. my time. And I was just edgy like this. And then I was afraid to turn the lights off and just to go walk to the bedroom where I was safe, because Liz would protect me. But I just remember being so impacted by that story. And then it was always like, if that wasn't enough, again, 2 weeks later, I get, and then there's more. So that one kind of stuck with me.
Just, again, it's theater of the mind, right? I'm sitting here listening to that, and this is the part of the reality. I believe the story. I absolutely believed it happened like it happened. And when you hear a disembodied voice for yourself, which I have only once, that was enough, by the way. When you hear it and you say to yourself, man, this bleep is real, right? And so when you hear this is part of where I think science needs to get more involved.
Yeah.
What is creating this? Because the phenomenon itself is real.
Yeah.
They haven't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah.
But for a voice to be created without a body creating it, but yet we hear it like they heard it, and she was obviously sleeping. There's something to this, and that's what creeps me out. It maybe, just maybe, Mark, maybe life is meant to be a mystery.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we are not meant to understand everything. Right? Where it's always just going to be one step away.
Well, think about how we've learned from science over the years, and there were things we didn't understand. We didn't even understand the way that electricity passed. So you even go back 50, 60 years, and just the understanding of being grounded and stuff like that was a completely different scientific experience because we learned. We also thought that, that the earth was the center of the universe and everything surrounded us without realizing that it was us that was going around the sun and stuff like that. So there's so much we still don't know. And I think we get these peaks. I'll quote Rush, the mystic rhythms. We sometimes catch a glimmer, a hint of what's beyond. Was it just our imagination stringing us along, as Neil Peart so brilliantly wrote? But we get these visions every once in a while, and we wonder, is it just this thing we don't yet understand because we don't have a way to measure it with scientific means, and the tools we have are too rudimentary to capture them? Or are we seeing into some other dimension that is not visible to the naked eye normally?
Well, I'm going to quote the physicist Leonard Susskind. Lenny is brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
And he says this: anything that you can imagine, anything will happen.
Wow.
Now think about that quote, right? It's just all probabilities, right? That's it. That's it. Eventually, it will happen. Wow. And you know what will eventually happen? You, Mark, are going to walk into a room one day, flick on the light, and there's going to be something standing there that's going to scare the crap out of you. Yeah. And I know. Every night, right? I go into my bedroom and I've got my traditions. I turn on the main light on the ceiling. Then I have a touch light on the nightstand. I turn that on. Then I turn off the main light. Right? It's an OCD thing. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. One day, right, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to flick that light so I feel safe before I turn on the nightstand. And there's going to be something, right? It's going to be right there. And that's just, right. And it's going to happen. And it'll be when you least expect it. So what do you do with one day? Right. So do you get scared or do you accept the phenomena?
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's the reaction we have. It can be so diverse. We can block it out. We can pretend it didn't happen. We can accept it and try to understand it. This is where a lot of humor comes into play too. A lot of it is kind of like, I can't do anything but laugh, and that nervous laughter, right?
Can't do anything but laugh. And so we've got to take a commercial break. I'll share this with you because you're talking about your fiance, and it reminded me of this incident. Okay, I'm in bed. This is a year ago, maybe, like right in there. I'm lying on my side. And I've got my iPad. It's in a case, and so it's unfolded, so the iPad is leaning up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tilted. And it's on the side, and I'm lying, and I'm reading. And I've got my covers pulled up. It's perfect, man. I got the pillows just right, got the angle right, and I'm I'm into whatever I'm doing. And this hand pushes me right in the middle of my back.
Oh,
just pushes.
Oh,
And my memory says this. I kind of felt it, right? I moved. And this is what I didn't do. I didn't turn around. I didn't look.
No.
The adrenaline, every hair on my right, just the rush, right through my body. But I didn't turn around. I just stared at the iPad. I was just like this.
You're like, I'm not gonna. Yeah.
No, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't look. And I would rather have something be there if I did look. Because you turn around and look and there's nothing there. That's even worse. Right?
That's kind of worse. You're like, I'm just gonna keep. Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
All right, let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Mark Leslie. It is Halloween Eve, and we are talking scary stuff. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Join us November 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2023. Live at the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. As Disclosure Fest Foundation and Fade to Black Radio presents Stairway to the Stars, a Human Origins Science and Technology Expo. With live talks, lectures, and workshops by world-acclaimed researchers and authors featuring topics like human origins, ancient technologies, indigenous teachings, workshops, a mass meditation, yoga and sound healing, music, and so much more. This is Jimmy Church, by the way, and I'll be your host all weekend long. Don't miss our intimate sky watch and meteor shower over the infamous Area 51 airspace in Rachel, Nevada, with special surprise celebrity hosts guiding us through the night. This event will sell out. For more information and tickets, please visit disclosurefest.org. Hi, everybody. Jimmy Church here. Very special announcement, and that is we are shipping Fade to Black t-shirts again. It's been almost 2 years. We did a full upgrade to the website, so you can head over to jimmychurchradio.com. It's all simple to do, and it's right there. Remember, we broadcast 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. We bring you the best, the brightest, the most knowledgeable and amazing guests, the best conversations. We do that 4 nights a week. We also do 4 days a week. We broadcast the news, and we do that live too as well. It's not a one-man show. I do it with website support. I do it with producers. I do it with writers and artists. All contribute to the show. The best way to help support what we do here is with the Fade to Black t-shirt. And you can get your Fade to Black t-shirt one of 2 ways. First, go to jimmychurchradio.com, order a shirt. It's really that simple. You're going to get a tracking number, it's going to get shipped, and it's going to get autographed. The second way to get a shirt is with a Game Changer membership. Now, the Game Changer membership not only includes a free t-shirt, but you get a private email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads. You have full access to the website, and everything includes free shipping, and everything is autographed. So help support the show. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. The links are below. You can just go to jimmychurchradio.com, and it's right on the website. So there you go. I'm Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. I'm so excited that I just have one thing to say. Go Backley Tappy.
This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of your favorite television show, Ancient Aliens. And I want to remind everyone that November 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, Disclosure Fest is happening. Yes, Stairway to the Stars. And guess what? I'm going to be part of an Ancient Aliens panel. I will be sharing the stage with the biggest stars of Ancient Aliens, Nick Pope, David Childress, Jason Martell, William Henry, all hosted by Jimmy Church. Is it possible that this will be the most amazing convention ever? Could it be that if you don't get your tickets, you'll regret it? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. See you in Vegas.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right, welcome back. I will never, ever get tired of that Robert Cotworthy commercial. Man, what an honor and a privilege. Our guest tonight, Mark Leslie, is with us. It's Halloween Eve, everybody, and we're just talking about scary stuff tonight. And Mark, I've got a list of stories here, and I'm going to go down. Some of them you've shared.
Yeah.
So if I make the mistake of repeating myself, just stop me, because every town in Canada to me is Ottawa. So it's, I may make that mistake, but let's go down this list and let's go through some of these. We talked about hospitals earlier.
Yeah.
And I've got Rhonda Parrish beginning her story with, I lived near a haunted hospital.
Yeah. So Rhonda is an author I met at a conference that takes place in Calgary, Alberta every August. It's called When Words Collide. Fantastic conference. I remember one of the evenings we're all sitting around in the ballroom after the big dinner, and we're just kind of sitting around as writers do, and we're drinking. And then a whole bunch of us sitting around a table, and Rhonda was sitting beside me, and she leans in and she says, I live near a haunted hospital. And of course, then I leaned back in and said, tell me more. And then she's like, she's telling me stories about the hospital. And I was like, there's a hospital not far from where and someone at the bar I hang out with, she's a nurse there, and she told me this story. And then and then someone else pipes in with another hospital story. And we're getting all jazzed, as writers often do, like, these are some ideas. And I was like, this is a great idea. Maybe this could be a book. And so I said, okay, we've had a lot to drink. How about we'll meet in the morning, the restaurant in the hotel. We'll get some coffee. We'll have some breakfast. We'll make some actual notes, and I'll see if we got a book here. And then, I'll pitch it to my publisher, see if they're interested. And lo and behold, because that's how I do the books, right? I have a one-page proposal. Here's a book. Here's who's going to write it. Here's what's going to be in it. It's going to be, here's some ideas of some stories, bullet form. Send it off. And if they come back with a contract, then I write the book. That's kind of how it works. So she lives near the Charles Camsell Hospital in Edmonton, Alberta. And she would, walk the dog past there and stuff like that. So she was constantly hearing stories about it. So she ended up working with a local psychic who had done some investigations, with groups into the hospital. And one of the most terrifying stories that Rhonda relayed was just the researchers were in the hospital. It's it's all closed down for renovations and construction and stuff like that, because they've been wanting to turn it into condos and stuff, but there's just so much work. And I'm sure it's a common thing where the first company that thought they were going to do it ran out of money, and then it sat there for a while, and another company's taken it over. Well, they kept hearing howls, and people would walk by at night and just hear howls of pain and like somebody was terrified or in pain or tortured. And the most scary one was the psychic who was walking through and saw an old man at the end of the hallway just sitting on a bench as if he was waiting for something. And he didn't fade, he didn't disappear, he stayed there almost clear as day, but she could tell that he was an apparition and not an actual person. And when she got up to him, he turned, looked at her, and said, I just want to get out of here. I just want to leave. And that's when he faded. And I just think about that. And oftentimes it's scary, but you also can kind of feel compassion for, it's like, is this somebody who's trapped and can't leave? That's terrifying.
They don't. And when I hear this is the scary part for me, is that they are trapped and they can't get out, and maybe they don't even know that they are somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's an even more terrifying situation, right?
Yeah.
Where you're in a dream that you can't wake up from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary to me.
Yeah, or you don't even realize, right? And there's some great horror stories have come out of the fact that you're like, well, I mean, I see dead people, right? I'm sure it's not a giveaway when you realize that, the one character was dead the whole time.
Well, how many times can this story be told or put into a movie where you're in a situation, you escape, you have the relief of escaping, and then you turn the corner and you're back where where you started from.
Yeah.
And you're in this endless cycle. Well, that's the terrifying part. And we all have those dreams, right? Well, if you have this story repeated, maybe it's because it's based in reality.
And it's so funny because one of my short stories that I wrote that was sort of inspired by the talks of the shadow men that live in the woods and stuff like that. And it's a guy who gets trapped on a lonely highway in Northern Ontario. And as the sun sets and there's no traffic going by, he's terrified because he's heard stories that the bush people are going to come and get him. And lo and behold, what happens is he ends up tripping. He goes out because he has to go to the washroom, and he ends up tripping and falling over, and then something grabs him and starts dragging him into the woods. And he's terrified because the trees are grabbing him and pulling him and passing him through the woods. And he's not terrified that they're going to bring him to the bush people, the shadow men that are there. He's terrified that they're just going to keep dragging him forever and ever and ever, and it's never going to end. And that's worse than the monsters that he might face. And so again, as you were saying that, I was like, yeah, that's the feeling, is it's not going to end. And that's even more terrifying. And it was called erratic cycles because he was trying to break cycles in his life, which is why he was on this trip. And he ended up, he's terrified that he's going to get caught in another cycle and be dragged forever. So
when people ask me if I've seen a ghost, and at the time, the one story, one event always comes back into my mind, and this is what happened, and it was the next day that was the scariest part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's 2:30 in the morning, and I know this because the bar closed at 2, and so we were all meeting over at my girlfriend's house at the time, which was the back house to another house in an old part of Hollywood, right in the middle of Hollywood, California. And so I pull up, and I'm there first, and I pull up into the driveway, and I pull back. The house in front is empty. She lives in the back house.
Yeah.
And so I pull to the back, and I'm sitting in my car, and I'm waiting for everybody else to arrive. And I look to my left and at the house, and I see there's a big picture window on the front porch. Big, I don't know, 8x4, right? Good sized window. But I see the blinds, the curtains, the blinds pull back, and this head looks out. And I say to myself, oh, her roommate is here. Okay. And so I was more pissed that they were, made me sit in the car for 10 minutes. Okay. So that's my attitude. So I get out of the car, shut the door, I go up, and I'm standing on the front porch. So the door doesn't open. I'm expecting, hey, Jimmy, what's up? Yeah, come on in. Didn't happen. I stand there for a minute, knock. Nobody answers. Knock again. getting a little bit pissed, knock again, nobody answers the door. And I was like, man, that's uncool. And that was my mindset.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of pissed. Okay, all right. Maybe you don't want me in the house because, all right, whatever. So I go back and I sit in my car. Somebody pulls in, another car pulls in. I get out and I go, your whatever her roommate's name is in the house and won't let me in. And she goes, no, she's not. She's right there with Chris.
Oh.
She points at the next car. And so Chris gets out, strapping young man, right? And I go, dude, somebody's in the house. And so now we're all freaking out.
Yeah.
We go up, unlock the door. Chris and I are ready to, go and confront who is ever in the house. And there's nobody there. And it's 2 bedrooms, living room, kitchen. That's it, right? It's a back house. Everything's locked. Everything's sealed. And I'm a little freaked out. We're all, but there's 4 of us.
Yeah.
There's only one of them. We're kind of cool. We we lock things up. What's going on? Don't know. The next day, all right, this is the next day. We're out in the front yard at the bottom of the steps where this picture window is, and the landlord is there, older Japanese guy, and he's watering the plants in the backyard, and I go up to and we're kind of chatting, and I say I don't mention anything about the night before. We're just kind of chatting. And I said, man, are you going to rent this house out? It's pretty nice. And he goes, no, I can't. I go, why? And he goes, my son used to live here. I go, okay. He committed suicide last year.
Oh.
Lit himself on fire in the living room. Right? And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
What? And all of us are just standing there because now we know about the night before. And it's not like we brought it up and I got to tell you, man, I don't think I went back.
Oh wow.
I don't think I went back to the house.
Yeah.
I was just too freaked out.
Oh wow.
I was too freaked out. So I did actually see something.
Yeah.
Now, and I don't know. I can only tell the story. And this isn't some campfire thing with your crazy ass uncle, and hook in the door, and the insane asylum story. No, the way that it went down is exactly how it happened. And I was completely freaked out. I was fine the night before. I was fine, man.
Yeah. But once you then heard that story, you put 2 and 2 together and went, "Oh my God!" That was It reminds me when I was researching for Haunted Hamilton. So Hamilton, Ontario, kind of like the Pittsburgh of Steel City, where they process a lot of steel and stuff like that. Dundurn Castle, beautiful old stately mansion in Hamilton, Ontario. And it's a beautiful grounds, beautiful building, and a lot of wedding photos get taken there because it's just gorgeous estate. And this was even published in the Hamilton Spectator. There's actually, and it was the mysterious wedding guest, and there's actually the photo of the wedding party, and in the window behind them is this beautiful, 20-year-old woman looking out at them, like very much wanting to be a part of it. And as the story goes, nobody was in that part of the mansion at all from inside. And the legend was that, and when they looked into it, she looked very much like a painting of the daughter who had died around that age, who was just about to get married before she had died. And so, and the thing I liked about this story so much is that it was published in a mainstream newspaper because they couldn't explain who the woman was in the window. And then digging into the research, there's like, well, she kind of looks a little bit like this woman from this painting, and there is no painting of that woman in the room, so it's not like there's some sort of weird reflection in the glass and stuff like that. So it's like that kind of story where you talk about someone looking out a window. It's almost like it's like a allegorical to them looking into this world as well.
And I after that experience that I had in Hollywood, and I do remember that night, like lying in bed going, I just imagined it.
Oh,
I didn't really see it. I didn't really
Yeah,
see
yeah.
it. And I freaked everybody out for no reason. And I'm just like trying to calm myself down, right? Go back to the safe
Yeah,
place. And then that story the next day, and that, man. And
yeah.
it truly freaked me out. I just got this post. This is from Tony. Let me pop this up. It says, Jimmy, ask Mark if he has ever looked into the 1880 Donnelly Massacre in Lucan, Ontario. You're nodding your head yes.
Oh yeah. Only because, interestingly enough, like the Black Donnelly's very terrifying story. But when I was researching the book Spooky Sudbury, I grew up in a small town. Sudbury, Ontario was a mining community in Sudbury, and I grew up an hour north of that in a small town called Levac. The tombstones from the Donnellys had gone missing. They'd been destroyed, and there was a lot of hostility and stuff like that even after they were murdered. And they had gone missing, and there was legends that they were up in Levac in some of the research I detailed, and it actually led to a friend of my mom's who who knew but refused to talk about it because it was allegedly buried in the basement of their garage. And try as I might to try to get some information and stuff like that, so it was kind of really freaky having grown up and read a couple of different books about what had happened, going to the town and seeing some of the monuments and the historic plaques and stuff like that, and then realizing when I was researching for my spooky stories of where I grew up, that the Black Donnelly story actually had a connection to my hometown. So that was just really weird. It was kind of like I didn't know I was going to grow up. I loved reading books about monsters and UFOs and paranormal and ghosts. I loved all that stuff. I had no idea I was going to grow up to be someone who would write that stuff too. So it's still like this weird connection, right?
Well, you didn't have the tombstones in your backyard or anything.
No. I mean, they've never been found. Never been found.
I've never heard of the Donnelly Massacre. What happened?
It was an Irish family. And there was just, in a nutshell, there was a lot of hatred towards the Irish family. They were treated like outcasts, and it was basically a mass murder of this family. So I guess the murders in Canada are relatively quaint compared to stuff that happens in the U.S. So not a lot of our serial killer stories or stories like the Black Donnellys would actually maybe even reach across the border.
No, but the story itself, what happened back in 1880?
Oh, there was just it depends on whose perspective you take, but there was a lot of misunderstanding between the Donnelly family in this small town, and the other townspeople, and accusations of crime and rape and even potentially murder and stuff like that. That it was almost like, think about Salem witch trials, where everybody, and well, not everybody, because we didn't know who did it. It almost like a mob that went and murdered this poor family. So it's just a really, just a really horrific tale of weird conformity when someone gets tainted with something, whether or not they did it, and then they get murdered for it. Yeah, because of just the way that, I guess, unfortunately, humanity can be.
Well, we get tried in the court of social media today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're persecuted before found guilty.
The trial happens in social media.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like that. And when you think about the horror, I think about stories like that, or you think about like Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, right, where the mob mentality of just following tradition regardless of who's going to get killed, that kind of thing.
Totally. And there's another part of this too, where we have the ability to manifest our id.
Yeah.
Right, whatever it is, that term, and you think about it enough that you manifest it, and it actually ends up happening. And that's another part of. That's why I try not to go into the dark zone. Right, it reminds me of what's the movie Forbidden Planet, right? So in Forbidden Planet, which is it's one of the best science fiction movies ever made, and it was like 1956, right? Full color, best special effects ever. But the aliens that they fight, the monsters that they fight on that planet, are created in their imagination. And the more scared that they are, the more powerful they become.
Yeah.
Right. So you're caught in that catch-22, and it's all manifested from your mind. Yeah. What's the scariest thing you can think of? Well, that's what they fought.
Yeah.
Right.
and that's that is powerful, because there's no fighting against it, because it's you're kind of like feeding it yourself, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Well, isn't that Slender Man? Right. If and if which started in like with I could be wrong, but like creepypasta.
Yeah.
Which I to this day I've got an addiction for, by the way.
Yeah.
I do. Oh, I don't think anything sets a good night of dreams like falling asleep to creepypasta. Running that stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
and that's where Slender Man came from.
Yeah.
And suddenly it becomes real, where the power of the mind and with the hive mind mentality. So now we have the creation of the internet. Yeah. Everybody's connected. Everybody's minds are connected.
Yeah.
Everybody's listening to these Slender Man stories at the same time. And the next thing you know, dude shows up in your house.
Yeah.
Well, what do you expect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I say, don't think about an elephant. Right.
Oh man. Okay. So let me see what's next. Let's go with okay, here we go. People are going to think I'm making this up. The screaming ghost with sunken eyes.
Oh, yeah. So that was one of the other stories that when I was researching for Haunted Hamilton, and this was another story that was documented in the Hamilton Spectator. And I remember because when I do research for books, the librarian, the local archivist is my best friend. I go to the city or the place where I'm doing it, and I ask for, I'm looking for anything about ghosts or hauntings or anything like that. And I remember this one time she's just like, we got these file folders and all these articles and stuff like that. I didn't even have to go into the microfiche because they actually had clips from the newspaper that goes back to the 70s. And then, I'm not allowed to take anything out, but I can make photocopies and stuff like that. So I make a ton of photocopies. I bring it back home. Now I'm working a full-time job at the time. So I have to get my writing done because Haunted Hamilton, I had a 1 week turnaround time. I sent the proposal. The publisher's like, we have an opening. If you can get it to us in 2 weeks, we'll publish it in the fall. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So, working like crazy every night till 2-3 in the morning to get the book written in about a week and a half. And so I'm there at 2 in the morning researching the story, working. My wife and son are upstairs asleep. I'm down in the basement den, all the lights on because I'm scared. And I'm writing the story, and I've got all the different newspaper articles where they even brought in exorcists and stuff. And they brought in priests and things like that to try and do some investigation. So this woman and man are sleeping in an apartment on the mountain in Hamilton, like just the Niagara Escarpment. It's not really a mountain, but not a mountain when you think about where you live. So, but it's a higher elevation, and so he wakes up and his wife is screaming bloody murder. And he turns to her and she's laying there just staring at the ceiling, screaming. He says, "What's going on?" And she said, this woman was hovering above the bed. And there was this woman with bedraggled, like long white hair. You couldn't even see her eyes. It was just these deep shadows. And her mouth was open as if she was moaning in pain. And she was just hovering there. And he's like, "Oh my God, it was a nightmare," or whatever. It kept happening every night. She would wake up screaming, see this woman hovering over the bed. And then over time, she would see the woman would suddenly react to her, look like she let out a scream, and she would then disappear off into this one wall. It was always the same spot. He never saw her. His wife continued to see her. They ended up bringing in priests. They tried to bring in exorcists. They brought in paranormal investigators from the US to investigate this. What they did figure out as a medium had found that the woman was looking for something. She had lost something. And the woman also, there was something like the ghost was just the upper half of her body. There was never saw anything below her waist. And they couldn't figure it out. It wasn't until later on that another medium came in and said, "Oh, this is a woman who lived here who was in a wheelchair." And that explained why she didn't have the use of her legs, etc. It was just the upper half of her body that was mobile, whatever. And they couldn't figure out what it was. They eventually moved. 10 years later, when the building was torn down, there's a picture of the man in question from the original article holding a piece of a tombstone. It was like a cracked half of an old tombstone. And they found out based on the name on the tombstone and the date that this traced back to a woman who in an accident, her legs were crushed and her 2 children were killed. And the tombstones had been somehow, as they were doing construction from the grave in their backyard, had been moved into the in the building, like when they were building it. So it was part of the building, and it was located on that wall that she disappeared into. And so the thing that I can still, when I close my eyes, I can still see the artist's rendition of this screaming ghost over top of this woman. And I finished writing the chapter, and I was like, okay, it's 3 a.m. I got to get to bed for 3 hours before I get up and get into work. And I remember sitting in the den in the basement. All the other lights are on in the house. I have to go up 2 stories, and I'm sitting in with all the lights on, like, desk lamp and the overhead lamp and another lamp over there with a book chair, just all the lights as possible. And I remember being so scared that I was terrified about leaving the light, like turning off the lights and heading upstairs and going to bed. I actually sat there for 45 minutes in my writing chair going, I could sleep here. I'll just sleep here with the lights on. I'll be fine. And I remember it took me a long time and I couldn't fall asleep. So I realized I've got to go lay upstairs. And that was that story. But again, this is a story that was actually reported in the newspaper. And it's so fascinating that 10 years later, they uncovered more of the mystery of what it could have been.
I love your nervous laugh. So I was going to sleep in the chair. Of course you were. What are you doing, Mark? What are you doing writing that stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning alone? I mean, when else yourself up. Yeah, you're setting yourself up. Which takes us back to my original intro to tonight's show. Why do we do this voluntarily? You're setting yourself up. And I love that.
I think we're curious, right? We are very, very curious. Humans have always been curious. So we do want to look. You can't drive by an accident without looking, right? The rubberneckers and stuff like that. The impressions of negative things that have happened, they're just so much more powerful. When you think about where you were during 9/11 or something like that, either like when JFK was shot or whatever it was, when the Space Shuttle Challenger, I remember when that, where were you when that happened? The imprint of terror and fear of, oh my God, something's happening that I don't understand. And that fear of the unknown can be one of the most terrifying things for us, because it speaks to our human nature and our curiosity and why we have science, for example.
We have here in Los Angeles, I know you've heard of it, we have the Alameda Hospital. And the Alameda Hospital, which is a great movie set, it's been investigated by every paranormal team in the country that you can think of, all the TV shows that are shot there. It is primed and ready, right? And it's right there. I've driven past it. I don't think that maybe I would, I not, I don't know. I don't think I would do it. I would certainly not go in there alone.
Oh,
no, I wouldn't do it. I don't know what the phenomena is, and maybe it's harmless, but there are certain aspects to things, like I'm not going into an insane asylum, and there's plenty of those across the country that are of note, but I'm not going to do that alone. With a team, somebody going in first.
Yeah.
Right.
Middle of the afternoon.
Right. And I did this thing for TV, and we were I'm with Susan Slaughter, who's one of the best paranormal investigators, in the country, and she's a medium, and she's great. She's a great friend of mine, and I trust her. We were in the basement of an LAPD precinct that was built in like 1920. And so we're in the basement there. Now, here's this is what happens. Now we've got a camera, there's cameras there, camera teams. But we're in the dark in this tunnel, this evidence locker in the basement. Now, looking back, honestly, and I remember walking in there, I was like, man, this ain't for me, man. Right. And well, let me back up. Before that happened, so they set me up upstairs for some B-roll. And I've got multiple cameras around me that are mounted. And I know that the cameras are there. And they want me to sit at this desk, and we're going to do an interview. So we're waiting for this interview to come online. So, Mark, as I live and breathe, I'm alone in this dark. And by the way, all the doors are locked. And that's the other messed up part, right? Okay, so we're going to lock the doors to make sure that nobody comes in. Right. Okay. So you've got that going on too. And I'm sitting at the front desk of the precinct. Right. Next to me is a frigging mannequin of a cop in like a 1930s police outfit. That was messed up in the dark. Right. So he's here. He's part of this. So he's standing there, and that was messing with me. Anyway, in the dead silence, I'm hearing stuff. Right. And I'm waiting for the producers to go, okay, Jimmy, the host is on the line. We're going to do this interview. I'm waiting for that. And I'm sitting there alone, and I'm hearing stuff. I'm just like, man. And I'm looking around, and they come in and they go, Jimmy, what are you looking at? I go, man, I don't want to be here. I just don't want to be here. So later we're downstairs, and we're in this tunnel. And we're doing EVPs, which I've never really done real ones before. I've done them, but not like with professionals and in a setting like this. And this is TV and stuff. So we're down there, and it's myself, Susan Slaughter, and this other expert. I don't remember his name right now. And he's got the recorder in his hand. And so I forget the question. The question doesn't even matter. But so he says something like, okay, so we're here in the precinct. Who is here with us? Something like that. And we stop. It's dead silence. Right. We wait about 15 seconds. He stops, and he rewinds the recorder, plays it. You hear his question. Okay, we're here in the precinct. Who is here with us? Well, it's me and my 3 buddies, something like, what? It was like, it's plain as day Now, I'm here to tell you, Mark, I heard the silence, right? He asked the question. We go 15 seconds of silence. He played that back, and that voice was like I spoke it into the microphone.
Oh,
It
geez.
was, yeah.
And it wasn't heard by you live. It was only on the playback that.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, man. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm out. I'm out on camera. I'm like, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to the light at the end of this tunnel, man. I'm going out that door right there. And so that tells me that there's something to the phenomenon that we don't understand. And it's real. This is not imagination.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is so. And again, I love there's that multi-layer where one thing senses it, or one person or one whatever senses it, but someone else doesn't. That's even more terrifying, right?
Well, yes. And what's more terrifying than that is you watch it on TV, okay? You're protected. You have insulation, number one. Number two, you're watching it on TV and you're saying to yourself, it's a setup. This isn't real. Okay, all right. Okay, that's what you do. It's a whole nother thing. When you jump and that thing comes out, it's no, man. No.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. And I loved it. I loved every minute, but I split. I walked out. All right. I have I want to jump because we have a couple of things here. We have the Halifax hotel story.
Yeah, so that was my first experience with something I could not explain. I was in Halifax on the east coast of Canada to go and talk to writers. I do a lot of talks for writers and inspiring things. So I'm doing like a morning keynote to launch the conference. And it's a different time zone. So it's a couple hours difference. And whenever you know this, when you travel, you get to a different time zone. It takes a while for your body to acclimatize. So I get into town, and I think it's the Lord Nelson, which is one of those old historic buildings in Halifax. And I get in, and it was a weird thing because I'd had breakfast but not lunch, but it was like the different time zone. So it was kind of like this weird in between. And I get to the hotel room. I go to set up my laptop, and then I go to plug in my phone because I had a crappy iPhone that power would go whatever. And so I go to plug in my laptop, and the plug near the desk doesn't work, but there's a plug in the lamp, right? So I can plug my phone into the lamp, whatever, no problem. I go out, I have dinner or whatever, I have a few drinks, I come back. I do a little bit of work and stuff like that. So I also, when I go to leave, I had the light on by my bedside because I hate coming back to a hotel room and when it's dark. And I knew when I was coming back from dinner, I knew it was going to be dark. And I'm like, no, never. Mark, homie, don't play that game. So Mark doesn't do this. His lights got to be on when I come home. So, when Liz isn't around, I leave a light on. So there's always a light in the house when I come home, that kind of thing. I come back, and the light's off. When I get to the room, it's kind of freaky. So no big deal. I turn on the big light and stuff like that. But I'd like to not have the light on. And I see, okay, there's a turn down service, right? So there's a mint on my pillow and all that, whatever. So, okay. Turn down service, and maybe and I look and I see the lamp was unplugged that I had previously had on.
The turn down service is the opposite of that. They turn on the light, they pull the sheet back, put a mint on the bed for you. It's the opposite of what you're saying here.
But I thought maybe because I came in, I made a mess or whatever. Maybe they vacuumed and they forgot to plug it in. No, whatever. No big deal. Right? So I tell myself this. No problem.
Sure.
The mint was good. So because I'm in the new time zone, I am really nervous about because it was the breakfast keynote and stuff like that. I wanted to make sure that I got up early because it was in an earlier time zone and my body's used to waking up whatever time. So I had my watch alarm, I had my phone alarm, and then I even had the hotel was going to call for wake up. So I didn't fall, whatever. So I go to I'm reading. And I've got my phone plugged in and the lamp beside the bed. I finally go to sleep. And I'm constantly waking up in the middle of the night because I'm worried that I'm going to oversleep. So I go to grab my phone and I pick up my phone because it's plugged in all night, and check the time because I can easily see on the time. And I look and I see my phone's only at like 19%. And I go, it's been plugged in all night. What the hell? And in the dark, I take the light of the phone, I lean around the bed, and I look down, and in the middle of the night, the plug had come out of the wall. And it wasn't like, it was a tight fitting. It wasn't like a loose fitting or something like that. And I had this terrifying, like, what the hell? Someone came into my room and unplugged it. I'm like, no, something wanted that unplugged. I couldn't get back to sleep. I ended up just getting up and, got ready hours early because it was still a couple hours early. The next night I couldn't sleep. I don't know why I didn't. I'm Canadian, so I didn't think to ask for a different room. I had to get drunk, and I passed out with fully clothed on the bed. That was the only way I could get to sleep the next night. And then I found out afterwards when I was checking out, like, oh yeah, there's some weird things that happen. But here's the thing is I felt like something didn't want that lamp plugged into the room, and maybe it was like something was going to happen, like an electrical fire or something like that, and something was doing me a favor by unplugging it constantly. So again, I had this weird feeling, like it was kind of freaky. I couldn't figure it out, but I thought, you know what, whatever it is doesn't want that thing plugged in, I'm not going to plug it in.
Don't do it.
I'll just leave it like that. Okay, we'll be fine. I'll get drunk, I'll pass out, we'll be okay. But that was it, and I have no idea what it was, but I just thought, okay, it wants this, it's going to have it.
You got to play by the rules sometime. You just have to do it. There is somebody in the chat room right now, and let me see. Well, she's my friend Lisa, but her name in the chat room is Lisa. I lost your name. Anyway, so Lisa's in the chat room, and she had Lisa Abate Reed. Okay, she's right there.
Okay.
And so so everybody knows who I'm talking about. There she is right there. I'll go into the asylum first and hold your hand, right? So anyway, Lisa and I are old friends. We've known each other about, I'm just going to say this out loud. We've known each other about 40 years. Okay,
wow.
We go back to the mid-'80s together. We are in 2023, so yeah, we're creeping up on that. But Lisa and I are brother and sister, and we've been through everything together. So not too long ago, she comes over to my house, and I'm having a dinner cookout weekend with a bunch of friends. So I've invited over 10, 15 people. We're all going to spend the night and cook all weekend long and have fun. Mm. And she gets to my house first. And then another friend of ours, Ken, had flown in from the East Coast. He arrives, and Ken goes, Jimmy, I want to go see Skunk Works. I live down the street from Skunk Works, Lockheed, the UFOs where they've got the alien bodies buried. So he wants to go see that. So I turned to Lisa and I said, Lisa, house is yours. People are showing up. You do your thing. We'll be back in 30 minutes. Okay. So we split. And Ken and I go down the street and we're doing our stuff. We're gone for about 30 minutes. We come back home. And Lisa's like this. Right. And there's somebody upstairs. I go, it's a friggin' haunted house. What do you expect? No. I was sitting on the couch and I'm watching TV and there's footsteps upstairs. I know, Lisa. I know. But no, Jimmy. And I said, what do you expect? I tell you the stories. This place is friggin' haunted. So where she was sitting on the couch, and the reason why she heard the footsteps is from the family room in the back, right? Above the family room is my master bath, tiled floors. Okay. The rest of the house is carpeted upstairs, not downstairs, it's wood floors, but upstairs, it's all carpeted except the master bathroom, which has a tile floor. And that's exactly what she is hearing is the footsteps on that freaking tile floor. And I hear it's gotten to the point here, Mark, I swear to you, I'll be watching TV. It'll happen tonight. Okay. We're going to wrap this show. I'm going to go in and watch some movie. I'll be sitting on the couch. I'm eating my, whatever. I'm sitting there and I'll hear it. I don't even trip anymore. I don't. I used to go check it out.
Well, what do you say? Do you just say, "Oh, it's the ghost with incontinence," or whatever? Or is
Yeah,
that
I know. And what you hear, all right. Let me back up. And I love your explanation of rationalizing things. That includes the plug, by the way. I like the way you got your workaround. So I'm sitting, and it's like it's gone on for like a week, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and it's like the third day, and I hear it. So, and it's kind of like in an arch. You can, anyway, I'm like, I've got a rat. I've got a squirrel. I've got a raccoon living between the first and second floor in the rafters. That's my rationalization. So I'm listening to it. I'm down on the couch. I'm listening to it. I'm like, that's it. God, that's it. And I grab a fly. I'm just done. I'm gonna go squirrel hunting. So I get my mag light and I walk. This is at night. I get the mag light and I walk around the side of the house and I'm looking, and it's perfect. There's no entrance, no whole board, right? It's from the house. Yeah. No, and I walked and I ended up, and my neighbors must have really tripped on me, but I'm walking around the entire house just looking with the flashlight for anything where an animal could get inside of that. And it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And I had to go back and listen for the next few nights, these footsteps and it's only right there. It's only in that one spot. So the ghost hunters and the mediums that I've had at the house,
right,
have all told me the same thing, except for one medium said it was a guy. Okay. But everybody else thinks it's female. Yeah.
Why is that? Was there a story behind it, or just?
Yeah, and like you did your research, right? So I start looking into the property. I'm talking to my neighbors.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be the weird dude at the end of the street.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to look that way, right? Yeah. See a neighbor out in the front yard. Hey, so listen, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How you doing? Pretty good. Hey, listen. Anything weird go down in my house?
Did you die there?
Yeah. Was there any mass murders? But I had to, and everything that I found out, there's 2 families that lived in this house in the last 40 years. Everybody said no, everything's normal. So I looked into the property. Is this poltergeist, Indian burial ground?
Yeah.
And no, I got nothing. Yeah, and I couldn't find anything out strange about the house, but there's definitely something going on. What do you think ultimately comprises a ghost? What or a spirit? What is causing the phenomena? What do you think it is?
Well, I think there's a few different possible, there's a number of possible explanations because we don't really know. I mean, is it the spirit of the departed? Is it a spirit trapped on this plane that can't leave to the other plane? Another theory I always like to speculate on is especially ghosts where something traumatic has happened, is that you think of the cathode ray tube, where when an image is burned onto the cathode ray tube, even after another image is happening, that it's still there. And sometimes there's an impression in space and time that was so significant that it just repeats on like on that loop or whatever. And I wonder if I even have speculated this and written fiction inspired by the idea that maybe you can leave your spirit somewhere while you're still alive, that a part of you still alive is haunting a spot that was so significant and important to you. And again, you're still off going and doing your own thing somewhere, but a part of you is still there. And that's what people see as a ghost. So I like to think that there's more than one reason why a place may be haunted, and there's more than one type of haunting too.
There is another component to this, and that is, why don't we see ghosts of Stone Age man?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, that's right.
yeah, maybe
Well, how
we
do we
do.
know?
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah. Well,
It's,
the sound you hear could be something from, and maybe it's and maybe time isn't linear. Maybe time, maybe we're seeing something that hasn't happened yet, too.
right. Well, I used to think it was, especially when I first moved in, that it was only on the second floor of my house, and there's still
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
bathroom and the okay, and the
my closet. That's a whole nother
yeah.
story, and that involves Lisa too as well, who's in the chat room. But then stuff started to happen downstairs, so I thought that it was only on the second floor of the house, but I had these shoe racks, and I have an Imelda Marcos DNA problem, right? I've got a lot of shoes,
Okay.
and it's something that I'm not proud of. It's a bit, dude. It's a sickness. I go to meetings once a month.
Shoes Anonymous.
Yeah. And so anyway, and I've got 4 shoe racks, and they're about 20 feet wide, right? That's in the
Whoa.
walk-in closet. Yeah. Okay. It's bad, but that's not the point.
Okay.
The shoes, I would walk in, and a pair different would be in the middle of the floor, usually on top of each other, crisscrossed in the middle of the floor. And the first time that this happened, whatever. Later on that day, different pair of shoes out in the middle of the floor, crisscrossed. I peed on myself, just a little,
man.
but I did.
Wow.
So I put the shoes back, and this continued on for months. It was so much so that I started to wear the shoes that were on the floor. It was like they were being picked out for me.
Like these are the ones you're going to put on there.
These are the ones I'm going to wear that day. So Lisa comes over to the house. This is on a different day. This isn't the same night. So she comes over, and we're going to have dinner. And she comes over. She goes, "Okay, I want to see the closet. I want to see the shoes."
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I take her upstairs, and she goes into the walk-in closet. She goes, "Okay, all right, everything's okay." So this is where it happens. This is the magic, man, right here. So I'm downstairs, and I'm cooking. We're in the kitchen, and she wanders off, and I hear her from upstairs. Ah! And I drive her like, "What happened?" And I run upstairs, and I go in. She's standing in the closet, and there's a pair of shoes in the middle of the floor. And I go, she goes, "You did this." I said, "Lisa, I'm downstairs with you. What do you mean?" She goes, "It's real." Yes. Yes, it was the funniest thing. And it's kind of chilled out. It's not as bad as it was. Dude, it was daily. I was sitting.
Wow.
I was sitting. You can put this in your book if you got any questions. I got pictures too. So I'm sitting. I'm in bed. It's about midnight. I got a movie on, and I'm just I hear it. So it's through the bathroom. It's about 30 feet away from me in bed, and I hear it. Boom, boom. I'm like, dude, I'm not. And I say out loud, Mark, I'm not going in there to look.
Yeah. You don't need to.
You can do what you want. I'm not getting out of bed. All right. And so I woke up in the morning there, and they were right there in the middle of the floor.
Oh man.
But it's chilled out. It's not like it was. So
yeah, that's fascinating. And I am working on a book on haunted inanimate objects. So
Adidas tennis shoes by any chance?
yeah, you never know.
So what are your plans for Halloween? I know you've got all the stuff in your front yard. What do you do for Halloween?
Halloween, the neighbors come over. We have some drinks. We sit outside in the garage. We have like a little heater on because it's kind of cold here. And then give out treats, lots of treats for the kids. We got all the spooky decorations and the lights and stuff going. So it's always a really fun time.
Man, I just I love looking at the kids in their costumes and seeing the creativity and it's just a highlight for me. Tomorrow night I'm on the air, so I got to be the creepy dude at the end of the street that just puts out a bucket of candy and puts a sign on the front, take one. And it just bums me out the timing of Halloween this year, but it's one of my favorite nights. Thank you so much. What's the next book and when's it coming out?
The next book's fiction. It's Only Monsters in the Building. It's in my Canadian Werewolf series. That is the next one, and I am working on Screaming Skulls, Demonic Dolls, and other haunted objects. That's probably another year out.
Man, I can't wait for that. Mark, you're the absolute very best. Mark Leslie and everybody, Mark's links are below. Go and check it out. Pick up his books. He's a scary guy. He's not as scary as he looks, though. Hey, Mark, thank you so much, man, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, Jimmy.
Fantastic show tonight. And thank you, Mark. See, Canada's not all nice. No. Tomorrow night, right here on Fade to Black, we have the one and only David, the Leo King Palmer, is with us tomorrow night. That's right. Halloween's a special night. So what does it mean in the stars? What's the history of Halloween and all of that stuff tomorrow night with David Palmer, the Leo King. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a fantastic show. Halloween Eve. Thank you, Mark. Perfect night for me. Fade to Black is produced by LJ Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you to Dennis and Kevin. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jonocide. The webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. And this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night with the Leo King, David Palmer, I want you to be safe. Go Backley Tappy.